Welcome back, fellow adventurers. We're wading into our next match of the day. Team Dignitas versus Counter Logic Gaming, and you shall pass. Anyone that was ready to close the chapters on CLG's Golden Age may be holding off after their win on over TSM yesterday.
Yeah, anyone who wants to close the chapters after like 1 or 2 roster changes, just calm down. Just wait for the results to happen. And still, it's not sure if it's Golden Age anyway. But CLG should be riding high because they looked really good after taking down TSM yesterday, which was actually the first time CLG had beaten TSM in the regular season since the 2014 summer split. And in that game, their new players, Stixay and Huhi, they had strong debuts. And one thing was pretty clear is that CLG didn't lose their identity. They're still one of the best teams at lane swaps. They're willing to make high execution team comps and plays. They were roaming the map as a team, and they are not afraid to press once they have a lead.
And on the flip side, Team Dignitas started their game strong, carving out an early advantage against NRG. But some mistakes around Baron erased that lead and put Dignitas at the bottom half of the standings to start day one.
Yeah, Team Dignitas, they were facing NRG's sub squad, 2 subs right off the bat. So on paper, that was a game that Team Dignitas should have been able to win. Unfortunately, they did not. One player that did have a good game was Shifter. He did manage to outfarm GBM by the end of the game and was picking up kills frequently against Trip. So Shifter and the rest of Team Dignitas will want to build on the positives from the last game and not think about the 2 Barons they lost to a victory laser.
Right, and his new AD carry, Apollo, go all the way back to the days of Team Coast. And Shifter says his old teammate has had a positive impact on the group.
I'm actually really happy to play with Apollo again. Like, I remember back on Team Coast, you know, he's the type of player who, you know, like, drives everyone to play better just because of his work ethic. Because, you know, he's always playing solo queue, so it's like, oh, wow, you know, I have to play solo queue all the time, too. So, you know, I hope him being on the team, you know, drives me to be a better player as well.
Always nice to have that on a team. I know being on like Counter-Strike teams in the past and whatnot, you always needed a guy to do that. It helps when games are down, when things get quiet. You always have kind of a guy to look to. He's like a turtle. He's like an Apollo, always smiling and always bringing up the positivity. Well, right now, we'll see if they can keep that on the up and up as we check out the starting lineups. On the blue side, it's Team Dignitas. In the top lane is Smitty J, Key-Ray in the jungle, Shifter in mid, Apollo at AD carry, Kiwi Kid at support, and Coach Raz.
And on the red side, of course, it is the 1-0 Counter Logic Gaming. Darshan, also known as Zion Spartan, but now Darshan in the top lane. Smithy in the jungle. Huhi in the mid lane. Stixay replacing Doublelift this season for CLG's AD carry. Afrim on support, and Zix as the coach.
Right, and I always like day 2 because day 2 shows whether everybody just trained for one thing in the offseason.
The first
and
game.
they use it on the first day. But no, this should be absolutely fantastic game coming in. 0-1 to 1-0. Dignitas looking to grab a win and start this week off 1-1. Or they can 2-0 CLG. Or they'll This is easy. CLG will be 2-0 and they'll sit up top with NRG. So a lot of first places we're going to have here coming out of week 1.
Yeah, chance for a second 2-0 team right here. Obviously, CLG looked really strong against TSM. Good early game, but then honestly, that game was still very close that they had. And Team Dignitas' game against NRG was also quite close. We don't necessarily know what the full difference was from the Energy squad with Chris and Trimp versus Moon and Impact. You would imagine it's much stronger with Moon and Impact, as we just saw in our game 1. But that does not mean that Team Dignitas does not have a fighting chance in this match.
Where are the bands starting? It looks like they Flex and Rise will not be seeing this game. Gangplank always on that ban list along with Tom Kench. Just saw a lot of awesome play with him at Worlds. Still remember the Jinx Kench on the Chompers and getting chomped up. We're not seeing much of that play lately, so everybody's had to learn a little something new. And 6.1 now. For the next bands, who did their homework?
Yeah, will they be just banning powerful champions, or will they be banning specific champions attempting to counter the opponent? So
like
far,
last game was specific bans.
Yeah, last game there was a few target bans onto Remy and a few generic bans. I think the TF ban is relatively generic. Shifter is very good at making plays with Twisted Fate. However, the Gangplank and the Tom Kench call those power bans for sure. And it almost feels like the entirety of Team Dignitas' bans are heavily predicated around power. Only a slight denial because Xmithy had such success on Rek'Sai yesterday.
Also see CLG answering that global Rek'Sai ban. They say, well, then you don't get something like TF. As that Fiora is picked up for pick number 1. We'll see what Darshan does in the top lane. We saw him on the Jack, so still in a position to carry the team from the top side. And he's got quite a champion pool. Never really been that small. He always has a very high amount of champions he is proficient on.
And he's a really solid Riven. We've seen Riven picked as a high volatility skill matchup against Fiora. Two squishy AD champions. Whoever gets ahead can sometimes crush the opponent, and it is something he's played a lot of. Instead, they pick Lissandra for the value right here, because that can still go to either Huhi or Darshan. And even though we see Fiora played against Lissandra frequently, it is still a matchup that can easily go either way.
We saw Huji's initiations yesterday, playing very, very well on that. Darshan, see what he decides to go to. No, not Darshan, rather. The side of
Interesting
Dignitas.
about that Poppy, though. Poppy is something that really didn't crop up heavily in North American LCS yesterday. Yeah, but it's been pretty huge in the European LCS. Got picked in an early game and then banned for most of the week. Here we can see either Aframu or Xmithy go for it. It's very viable in both positions, in my opinion.
Pretty scary pickup. It would be interesting if Aframu picks it up. He did go for the Bard first day. So maybe trying to feel out the champion picks in the beginning of the season for himself. Looking at an Elise and an Ezreal here for Keyray and Shifter. Keyray had a bit of trouble yesterday on that Kindred. Let's see what he can produce for results on the Elise. It's going to be locked in. Ezreal as well. Could be a flex. Probably going to Apollo.
Keyray will definitely have to calm down a little bit. LCS stage, first game, it's got to be tricky.
It's true.
Definitely misplayed multiple times against GBM. 2 times just getting blown up. A few times at Baron. This Warwick will change.
Will it, though?
I'm more confident in this prediction than I am that games will be 40 minutes or less all day.
Ooh. All right.
Amumu will also change. Bold.
Got a crystal ball?
Bold picks all over here. Yeah, CLG doesn't have to define too much of their team composition right here. I'd imagine they're going to save one of their solo lanes for last, because they're really going to want to be able to move Huhi and Darshan's pick back and forth. That Lissandra will go in either place. So 80 carry and support getting picked in here, which means jungle pop.
Awesome. So you're going to see what Smithy can do on this. He was playing a bit of the Echo Gragas towards the end of the season. Poppy should be an interesting pickup for him. Apollo and Kiwi Kid to now draw picks for the mid lane and their support. They actually leave up to the last. They have the choice of kind of team they want to build here. The Trundle is still there. We saw some great play Trundle last game. And that's not going to happen.
Are you sure?
I don't know.
Toronto Mordekaiser actually wouldn't be a terrible duo lane because the pillars could keep people in place, so the Mordekaiser could get all 3 hits off.
That's true. You get your procs.
But there's been
League
several changes to Mordekaiser since he was basically permabanned at Worlds that make him far less threatening and overbearing in a solo lane. Not to mention Ezreal was 80 carry yesterday for Team Dignitas. And that's an Ahri lock in the mid lane, so there we go.
So, bit of disengage with a bit of the ability to get that pick on if they want it with a charm or a cocoon. Something very similar we saw to the side of NRG last game, except with the Trundle on their side now.
Definitely. Last pick here. He needs to be able to go up against a Fiora. It's generally a team, very, very similar team to what we just saw Energy run. Same solo lane, same jungle, same support. Only change would be the 80 carry. So CLG will need to make sure that they either have strong split pushing or even stronger initiation so they can't get cutted back. Already with Lissandra, they have that.
Could look at a Mel fight here if they really wanted to. Just hang out in the top lane and be crazy for initiation. Go along with Poppy. The Jax once again. Is he going to go back to it? And he does. Gonna be Jax or Darshan in the top lane. Very aggressive on that yesterday. 3-3 and 12 overall, but was really controlling the side lane of the game. And we'll see how this one pans out for Dignitas. They really need to have a strong early game, and it could prevent them from having to pressure so many objectives to make something happen. Hopefully if they can do that, they'll get the game that they want.
And Jax is actually another pick who saw a lot of play against Fiora when Fiora was even stronger balance-wise. And it could work. There's a big mind game that goes on when Jax is spinning his Counter-Strike, and also when Fiora is planning to use her riposte.
Yep.
Because you can activate that Counter-Strike early, or you can just walk away so that you don't get stunned by the riposte. It's a fun little mini game those guys will be playing, and if either one gets far ahead, it's very snowball.
Well, the crowd is ready to get into game 2. Dig versus CLG. Share your picks with hashtag DIG win or hashtag CLG win. We'll see how those pan out and how you're calling them at home as we get into it. Another amazing game to happen on the LCS stage. Two teams trying to create or really keep that brand that they have together. And Dignitas looking to shake a few things off the curse that they have been having so many seasons long. It just sticks. Yeah. I don't know why it sticks, but it does for them.
Confirmation bias sometimes. They've had plenty of good plays at Baron.
That's true.
But anytime something goes wrong around the general area, we think that it's part of the overall curse.
Although to the old adage.
Although it's hard to say it didn't affect them. I think the tweet Kiwi Kid put after the game was, let's just not talk about that.
Let's not talk about that.
Which I think is the correct approach. Don't talk about that. Think about the positives. Figure out how the negatives happen and move on.
Right. Work on what is going well for the team and leave the others behind. Corrupting Potion on Smitty J to start up for him in the top lane. He will be running a Fiora today. Malphite yesterday in their game against NRG, so we see how he does now in a bit more of an aggressive champion. He can more control the lane with.
Yeah, much less tankiness. Need a little bit more positioning there, a little bit more finesse. Malphite more straightforward for sure. And yesterday we saw COG with some pretty strong lane swapping against TSM. Very quickly maneuvered their way to a first blood on Hanser and a lead for Darshan. It's also what CLG excelled on last year. Oftentimes when teams lane swap, they are sacrificing the top side for the bottom side or vice versa. Except CLG would consistently sacrifice nothing and get both sides ahead because they would lane swap so well. Darshan had the highest CS differential at 10 minutes of all top laners, and Doublelift was either first or second in CS differential at 10 for 80 carries as well. Let's see if they can keep doing it.
It makes it, when your lanes are ahead as well like that, it makes it easier when we see the roams from Aframu come in to make something happen. Your lane's ahead, you have the advantage, you have it placed correctly, and Aframu, on usually as Morgana, would be making a lot of those plays. We'll see if we can do on Braum, if those lanes are once again able to get ahead. Poppy start towards the bottom side, so they can end up on the strong, and we are off and running.
Well, speaking of the very start, really non-standard from CLG right here. They were spotted, Stixxay was spotted walking into the lane up top, and also instead of starting the Gromp side double jungle, CLG has done a whole bunch of weird stuff. They just do the blue, not the Gromp. Smithy is left to finish the blue. Darshan roams up at level 1. And I'm not entirely sure where he's going. He's probably just going to pressure the turret quickly. Basically, Team Dignitas got vision of CLG's start, but CLG did not have the right vision of Team Dignitas' start. So immediately they're placed into reactive mode. Let's see if they can pull ahead and not fall behind here in the early lane swap.
Well, the bottom turret isn't being pushed super hard right now. You can see it a little bit slower than this top side right now, but it does look like we will see Smitty J gather up with that bottom side and start to go for the turret. So trying to mirror, but slightly behind that top turret. CLG, like you said, in reactive mode, doing what they can, put themselves back on top.
Yeah, Darshan literally ran across the entire map without farming, just to get there. It may have, it's about the same distance from the base to where he went from where he started to where he got.
Wow.
Nice early aggression from Shifter as well. He must have landed
Very
the charm.
early.
He must have landed the charm earlier to get some harass down first. Then would force the flash.
He's also making sure he gets the Thunderlord's proxy, so he's getting all that extra damage as well for every 3. Really putting Huhi in the back, and he uses teleport to get back to lane. So flash and TP down. As top turret goes down, we'll see bottom follow. And it's going to be hard to gank Huhi, so he should be all right as that flash come back up in 5 minutes.
Yeah, both summoners burned, and also Huhi had to return to lane with just the pink ward. No combat effectiveness. Meanwhile, when Shifter backs, he will most likely have an item threshold that is greater than 3. So I like the start from Shifter. The lanes themselves are equalizing pretty evenly, though. Darshan started his freeze in the top lane faster than Smitty J did, so he'll be able to catch up on the experience he missed with the slight tweak in the early game strats.
It's going to make it tough for Huhi, but yeah.
And now Stixxay is where he should not be.
It's a lot of damage. He could slalom the minions.
Still heal.
Kire slalom as well. There's the heal. Smitty is going to go in as well. They get the Q off. They take down Stixxay for first blood along with both of his summoners. Kiwi Kid found out on the top side here, but Kire just as low. So have to be very careful in these situations that nobody goes down.
Yeah, well, we heard Aframu talking in his post-game interview yesterday about the slight weaknesses they have of some of their new players, and he says Stixay's mechanics are good, but his game sense could still have some improving to do. And this was almost a complete role reversal from the early game lane swapping we saw yesterday when CLG bested TSM, because it was this time Stixay instead of Hauntzer who was alone, without his turret, without backup, without wards, and paid for it with his life. Whew.
Almost saw the same thing happen to Apollo right here, but nice defense to get him out. And bottom lane actually pushed very far. Smitty J and Kire kept that all the way to the turret. Make sure they get back, and it has to be respected by Stixay as he comes back up. So Dignitas is starting to run CLG around a little bit. We'll see what happens though. Both those top turret and bottom turret are down. So it's going to be pushed up until we get to the next one. Huhi still 5 in the mid as Aframu waits off in the wing here. We can see if any pressure comes in. Doesn't look like they find the counter that they want. Isn't that the thing? You leave a little bit late as soon as the other team engages, if you're just not in position.
Yeah, honestly, the early game here from Team Dignitas has been quite clean. Smitty J now, recognizing that a lane is getting frozen on the other side, is going to hard push this lane already, while Kire actually goes to farm the jungle. So a lot of efficiency moves going on for Team Dignitas here. I think they're going to try and dive Huhi in the mid lane as well, with the way he's posturing on Elise here.
Very low mana, the flash is down. He can only use the claw to get out, and he probably will panic once he sees them, and he does right under his turret still. He didn't go anywhere with that claw, and he gets taken down immediately. There's the rest of the team ready to act on it. Nicely played by Dignitas.
CLG losing the pressure game hugely right here, and it's because Stixay has spent about a minute and a half off on his own in the lane, and CLG is paying the price. Really big credit to Team Dignitas for taking advantages of these small little windows in a really powerful first 6.5 minutes for a 600 gold lead.
Very fast play by Dig. They switched the early game up a little bit. Stronger than yesterday for sure. And as they hit these 6s as well, they start activating. We saw that's why Huhi went down. They're working on every advantage they have and pressuring more, keeping Darshan out of the lane for even longer to get more of a push on this.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that the strategic game was so far ahead of CLG for that mid lane dive that the mechanical misses didn't matter. They missed Cocoon and Charm and still executed the dive without burning a summer spell. That's how far ahead of the play they were.
CLG keeping some options open. We do see a few deep pink wards that could pay off if Huhi and maybe Smithy can get in for a gank, but even Smithy himself, level 4 right now to Kire's 5. Shifter 6, as we were saying. They're trying to get it. So here's where the pink wards pay off a little bit. Gonna deny Shifter. Hopefully they can get out safely.
Yeah, very important to get pink wards in the spots where you can get punished. CLG trying to omit a little bit of strength here. Emit a little bit of strength within the jungle of Team Dignitas, because technically that should be the strong side for CLG, since that's where Aframu and Xmithy have spent all of their time. It's very strange. Stixay is really completely off on his own, which isn't what you would expect normally from a CLG game. Darshan is one of the shot callers.
Right.
And a lot of the times when CLG is working at their best, it's Darshan on one side because he kind of shot calls, Aframu on the other side, and they have great synergy together. They can kind of keep the whole map under control, and then they collapse at their will. Stixay, the newest member, probably the least strategic member as well as far as how much he communicates, yet he is the one that they put on the one side of the map, and Darshan and Afro are kind of working together.
Right.
It just feels very disjointed.
And even at this point, when he's 20 CS up, gonna have more damage due to that gold, has the level 6 and could be used for a team fight. But he's on the bot, he'll be there for Dragon, but you do make a very valid point.
Yeah. You don't want to become predictable as a team either. Like, you want to be able to have strategies where your AD carry is the one getting levels and experience, and strategies when your top laner does so. But clearly, one works better than the other thus far for CLG.
Well, he's got the BF sword for sure in that pocket of gold. 1,400 sitting on it right now. So he's farming up very, very far. Here's that macro player we're talking about. Knowing the map, knowing where you are and where the rest of your team is. Stixay gets found out. Grand challenge is executed. Aframu getting in to save him. The rest, no, you gotta be kidding me. These things can't happen because Stixay is gonna keep making those plays, but if the team is there, let the plays be made. On to Kira now. There's the Winter's Bite. Conclusive blows to come through. no place to repel to, and he gets hammered down by Xmithy and Huhi, and CLG puts their foot down and gets back in this one.
Are we sure Double Lift joined TSM? Because that, in every way, that was a Double Lift play right there. In the wrong place, at the wrong time, over-prioritizing farm, but then having your team win because you mechanically outplay the opponent. He uses his summoner, skips over the wall, gets the kill, the teammates back him up, and CLG turns a bad decision into a big play.
See, if Aframu would have been like, he's got this, then he probably would have been a pentakill again, right? Just
yeah.
Like solo QB.
To be fair, Stixay was probably baiting that play out just because the rest of CLG was getting deports in the jungle, but he reactively moved into the right spot.
Played us.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Fool me once. 6A. He doesn't have the
You take the good with the bad.
cavalry to save him that time. Yeah. So kill picked up. Smitty actually getting pretty big. 2-1 and 0 right now. Majority of the kills for his team, and it's a good guy to have him on. He is keeping in CS range of Darshan as well, who by this time was actually having a
nice
better
fire.
game last time. The ultimate, one more hit, and it will not be enough. No Mystic Shot to follow that Arcane. Or True Shot Barrage, I should say.
Team Dignitas looking to bounce back in a big way from their loss yesterday. Keyray strongly ahead of Xmithy.
Much better.
Shifter and Keyray as well have been applying a lot of pressure to this mid lane to make Shifter get that turret. When is the last time you remember Shifter taking his opponent's mid laner turret thanks to having mid lane pressure? So much of his last year has been him sitting back at his own turret, losing pressure. But a very, very new look Team Dignitas right here. Powerful aggression in the mid lane throughout the jungle and getting the jump on CLG on multiple occasions.
This is what really we need to see from teams as well, but after the breakout point, the 15 minutes when the towers are gone, do they still have the options ready and in place to do it, or does it fizzle out? Do they wait for things to happen? Do they kind of lack wards? Can they keep this going is the question, and we will see. CLG is about to test them on a dragon, but they're already focused on keeping the lanes. They don't want to be overpressured, and Dignitas is more than happy, it seems, to let this go. CLG, more than happy to pick it up. That's going to be first dragon for them. They are missing that mid turret, though, to equal out mid turret, so we'll see if they start to gather.
Yeah, losing the mid turret this early is troubling. Also, though, Rift Herald at this point in the game, Elise is incredibly good at taking Rift Herald, actually, because he hits really hard and there's no way of avoiding the damage unless you can make him hit a Spiderling, which Elise can do. But they're still pushed off there because Darshan had a ward in the back. And now CLG is going to be a little bit on the offensive. This is where Team Dignitas has to go aggressive to push them off.
Kind of seeing Dig choose something. Fizzle out. Whoa! Shifter gets hit by Darshan immediately, and the rest of the team, very nicely done. Everybody gets an assist with the kill going to Stixay, and they are onto the turret. Those are the kind of things you have to be ready for. And that flash was from Huhi that you saw happen in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, pretty crazy. Chain CC. Shifter could not ult or flash away.
And Darshan, yeah.
Even a point-blank ultimate by Xmithy to knock him straight up in the air instead of back towards his base on Poppy. Now, that's the type of play CLG had in mind when they picked this team composition, and they finally get to pull it off 13 minutes in.
All right.
Back to Rift Herald.
Number 2.
So that's fascinating, actually. Elise is kind of the only champion in the game who has a chance of soloing Rift Herald, because Elise can turn him around, open up the eye with the Spiderlings and get him down. But anyway, he gets help. That's the real way of getting Rift Herald.
Nicely done.
I'm not sure if the eye actually opens up while hitting Spiderlings, but I know that the eye opens up when you have two people hitting on opposite sides of the Rift Herald.
Pretty sure I saw it open.
Check on that after. Yeah.
Pretty sure I saw it open for a bit. So blue is picked up by Shifter. Possible plays to be made with a bit more of that power under his belt. And we'll see CLG trying to gain everything river control right now and just a bit past so they don't have any problems. Unbeknownst to them, walking over wards as they do it. And CLG picks up their blue as well. So pretty much on par on both sides. A little bit of a gold lead here to Dig. They're trying to force it as well. Stixay flashes over to the other side of the pillar, getting behind the Unbreakable of Aframu. Teleport comes in from Darshan, and Afro trying to connect the Winter's Bite. Smitty's going to take a bit of damage here, but it is something they are kiting out nicely. This means Dig could be getting the fight they want, but not on the same side of the wall. Very aggressive by Kirei, and the rest of the team's not in position to keep going. Darshan actually jumps backwards for safety. Everybody's too far in now from CLG's side. They lose two immediately, going down to Shifter. The fight's now on to CLG Stixay, and what we saw in the NRG game is happening with Dig now, kiting with the Trundle and executing when they want to.
We said 4/5 of this team composition was the same as what NRG played, and that's the way they're getting these fights. Big props there for the positioning of Kiwi Kid's Trundle pillars, seemingly just making CLG walk around in a bit of molasses right here. And that also allowed Shifter to land his skill shots onto Huhi once again, started the chain reaction because once Huhi was caught, CLG decided to stay in afterwards. So they dodged the first initiation. CLG is waiting for Huhi, and Dignitas is waiting for Apollo, so they're both waiting for something. Shifter this time shifts away so they can't follow the ultimate, and then, look, everyone on CLG is standing around a pillar of ice. Huhi can't dodge that charm because he has nowhere to dash to. Aftermove tries to join in, but honestly, all of CLG's cooldowns were down. Afro should have just turned tail and ran right after that charm landed, but they attempt teamwork when there was no teamwork to help them, and now they're down 3,000 gold to Team Dignitas.
It was really well played by Dig. Calls and all coming into that fight. Able to get a bit more items under their belt now. The Aegis is going to be finished into a locket soon for them as well. Looks like Iceborne Gauntlet going to be finished up on Apollo soon, and that'll help the kite even more. It's going to be so hard to get on this Dignitas team.
Even more disengage than prior. And CLG has much more engage as well. So Jax, Lissandra, Braum, all capable of locking someone down. Not to mention the Poppy, who, if Xmithy can actually get in the right position, can stop Ari from dashing away, which is really important.
Yeah.
Just hasn't been able to get in the right position yet. Very underwhelming so far.
It is quite an interesting pick. When you say that, Shifter picked right into it, knowing that could be a possibility, but haven't seen Xmithy able to use that move block. Yeah, move block stopper it. We're seeing skirmishers to the Cinderhawk Stalkers. So a little different build from Kirei here.
Kirei with the Sightstone, so
yep.
Still that, and here we go.
Apollo takes off. Now for a move, looks like he's going to go down here. A bit of solo warding. Gets CLG a loss of a member there, but it's 1-for-1 overall across the map. That was a flash blown by Apollo. Not too much of a loss on Ezreal though, so not really a play to be made off of that again. 40 seconds on to Dragon. Number 2. I was looking at turrets. Number 2 for CLG here, so not too far in. And nothing they have to pressure.
Yeah, pick for pick right there. Basically, Afromove gets killed while trying to deep ward. Apollo gets killed because it's nearly impossible to not occasionally get killed by a flashing Lissandra who ults you unless you're around your entire team at the time. This game will be very interesting moving forward since CLG is behind and is needing to heavily invest in their split pushing picks. But the last one they got on Apollo really granted them no true advantages. And it did cost a pretty high cooldown on Huhi. He built Distortion Boots so he can create those opportunities more often. Because CLG is basically done with team fighting at this point. They are full 1-3-1 split push.
Quicksilver Sash already on Darshan says he wants to be able to get out of a sticky split push situation.
Yep.
Right after his Youmu's, or sorry, Ginsu's Rage Blade. So it's like he actually might meet Smitty in just a second. Shifter pushing in that mid, so nothing gets through.
Looks like these teams will be picking up guerrilla warfare a little bit because like neither team is really that great at the full-on team fighting. Team Dignitas was better. But it's not like they can just juggernaut up, go mid lane, and push down every turret. They do not have the horsepower to do that.
Right.
So now 1-3-1 is the name of the game, and Team Dignitas will have to continue to outplay if they want to win this. That's what the QSS is for.
Can he get one more hit in? He cannot. Huhi waste teleport to the top side, so they bring the fight there. They kind of have location now on CLG, so they can start gathering up behind this turret. Apollo's still pushing bottom lane. So if this is not going to be a 1-for-1 very fast, Apollo may not be able to get what he wants out of this push.
Wow. Really goes to show you the value of a QSS against a Fiora in split push situations. That was
I thought it was going to be to run away, but that enabled him.
Yeah, that's a 2-1 and 3 Fiora with a 1,500 gold advantage over Darshan. And Darshan beat him in a 1v1 because he was able to QSS the Grand Challenge away.
Call is coming in from the team. Stop that turret, bring mid, go down to Dragon. Spooky Ghost goes out, chills Xmithy out. He is also caught by the pillar, and that's going to be Xmithy going down. The jungle is no longer a 50-50.
Smitty J with the riposte on the Fiora ultimate right there, completely stuffing the knockback. Great pick there by Team Dignitas, and we said this is going to be the teams fighting back and forth, who can pick off whom, and so far Smitty J avoided the attempt from CLG, and who he falls to Team Dignitas.
That's great. I didn't see it right away, but realized what happened afterwards. Oh, through the pink ward. Darshan, Quicksilver not up for like 10 seconds. Oh, what a time. He gets out with the leap. Quicksilver's gonna be up in just a second. He uses it, but still goes down to the amount of damage being output by Shifter and the rest of the team. Woo! That's tough. Watch out, home guard's in 1 second, but everybody's left the fountain, so they're all left walking slow from CLG here.
Yeah, CLG definitely been playing catch-up since minute 1 here. Team Dignitas got to keep the pressure up. They know Darshan is down. There's a pillar to cut off Stixxay.
Flash for him as well. Relentless Pursuit must have already been down to get him through the terrain. And now another push on the turret. Aftermoon on the other side. It kind of splits CLG and allows a lot of pressure here instantly by Dig. Can he get a nice Glacial Fissure across the team? It would really stop the escape. But do they have it?
So who he was looking for a fight there, because you can tell they're calling aggressively.
Yes.
But he took so much damage straight to his face, he can no longer initiate with Flash. Darshan had his teleport up and the home guard bonus because he was in base post 20 minutes. So that was a fight CLG wanted to take, but thanks to the giant poke the Team Dignitas put down on Huhi, they're able to completely avoid it and still get some nice turret damage down.
Yeah, it feels like they're not going to get any farther on that. Even with top wave pushing in, they do decide to back off. Mid's kind of just evened out there for the time being. And Darshan, the guy trying to play super bait right now and just back and forth, use that Quicksilver sash to get Dig to waste a bunch of their spells. That time he went down. It's not working out for him too well. Dignitas' options are kind of running out now. And it's only 21 minutes into the game. Still have a chance to get a fight between these two teams. We're really just seeing single picks here and there, or fights not happening because somebody just went too low.
Yeah, the question will really be who can create the first deep push. Now that Baron is up 21.5 minutes in, the kills will lead to longer death timers and harsher penalties for the deceased. Team Dignitas has been able to pick up twice as many kills right here. Also, CLG is opting into a lot of aggressive moves. It's just the way they play. You almost never see CLG, you know, lose slow, painful games. They will go for it.
Right.
And that is what their team composition is built to do. So right now, they're going for a lot of split pushing opportunities and waiting for Huhi to go and make plays.
See if this is the time they get some wards out. They've been confined to their side of the map for a while, so here they're finally getting some deep ones in. There's only about 4 or 5 wards out. It looks pretty dark if you look at the mini-map. Spooky Ghosts.
Yeah.
Onto Xmithy. It should be all right. Oh.
Yeah, Swiftness boots, very good against the Spooky Ghosts.
Trying for a pick, knowing Kiwi could easily get that pillar out to continue the process.
And that, here's opportunity because the Ahri ultimate is down.
Look at this. Instead of going away, they go right in. Stixxay says, okay, put it behind me. We're going for the enemies, and we're going to start taking people down. CLG sees that they are okay on the left shoulder here with that ward and their right shoulder, so they're free to push up. Doesn't look like Dignitas is going to give him any more kills, though. Bottom lane, Smitty and Darshan in a 1v1 once again. He's forced over the wall. And this is going to be the challenge. Teleport as well. Huhi wants a piece of this. And he's going to claw over the wall. He makes it. That's going to be the lockdown and the knockdown. Smitty J gets hit. That's Aframu. Another 1-for-1 across the map. They just can't keep themselves from dying.
All of the cross-mapping right now can't keep the attention focused team-wide. CLG makes one play, Team Dignitas makes another play. And that just means not much happens. Because
every time.
Yeah.
It's only picks. Hardly getting any turrets after these. We have seen top take a lot of beating for CLG, or for CLG. Dignitas down to an inhibitor turret on that one. Dignitas just trying to answer back now, give them some of their own medicine on the side of CLG. And Darshan is not going to let that happen without taking something for himself. He's to the bottom, calls Smitty J in. Home guards are on, so they should be able to take it or stop him quite quick. I don't know, a few more empowers, and he's got that turret in the bot lane. So Smitty J leaves that. Darshan could teleport back to the top side if there becomes a very big fight here. But it looks like the disengage from Dig already happens. And CLG's finally getting a bit of this ring around the rosy game they were looking for before.
Game on, they were down 4,000 gold, now they're close to 2, but Afamu continually picked off time and time again.
Even with the help of Xmithy, really though, Roman with a poppy, you're not gonna do too much if you find an entire team. So he goes down. He actually just came up. We saw him go down in mid in the 1-for-1 trade with Smitty there. Not a good game for him. 0-4-3 right now, hoping to get back and help the team.
That's basically the third time Afamu has been caught warding.
That's true.
His team, full stop. Despite having 2 Farsight totems, they haven't been able to advance Scout as well as they would like. So lost a lot of pink ward coverage because it's been a very, very spread game. So it's very difficult to keep your wards up everywhere since the battlefield is constantly changing. It's not like you can set up in one spot, then only fight in that spot. Super, super spread out. Team Dignitas is very mobile and well punishing, but this is far from over. Like this is it's a fascinating game here. With only a 2,000 gold differential, despite how many deaths have happened for CLG, they have made nearly as many positive plays off of teleports or off of clever positioning.
Starting to get to a lot of those utility items that will assist in a fight where you think you're going to kill someone. We got lockets coming out, face of the mountain now as well to stop some of these. I also noticed Lucidity Boots, 3 members of Dignitas with that, helping with cooldowns and fights. Ari, Ezreal, and Fiora.
Yeah.
So interesting vibes.
All of the cheap boots are purchased by Team Dignitas, and only two versions of the expensive boots, so to speak, Ninja Tabi and Stixxay, having the Berserker Greaves.
Definitely means they can throw out a lot more abilities and reposition themselves. Ooh. Domain with Swifties gets Kiwi Kid out just in time before he takes that Winter's Bite to the tail side. Top side push by Huhi, his teleport's up. He can rejoin with the team. Darshan will be here on the bottom side. Dig will see him, but they're not going to be able to do too much. He's just trying to deter this turret push. CLG is pushing mid. They want to back up though. They're kind of back and forth right now.
And Darshan is the wrong person for being on this side. They need to have Lysandra and Darshan switch, so they're going to lose this inhibitor turret, maybe even more. Darshan could not initiate on this, and Huhi is still chilling. He's now teleporting. This will be the fight.
Huhi is far behind them. They just pinged him. They said assist for Huhi, but he went through the gate. He's back in the base and safe, but great job by Dignitas to force this one to the side lane, call Huhi back on a split push, and make it work for themselves.
They recognized that CLG was the inverse of what they should be. Huhi should be with the team in this situation, to wait here with Lysandra, and Darshan should be the one pressuring turrets because he can actually take them in a timely fashion. That wasn't the case. Team Dignitas Group 5, they had the window, and they easily get the inhibitor. Great call.
11-6 here, definitely a different Dignitas than what we saw yesterday. Much more clean in their execution of anything they've done today. 27 minutes on the clock. Only 3 dragons this game, and it's 2-1 in favor of Dignitas, so not much pressure can really come off of that just yet. See what happens with these mid laners who are really packing some power now as they get some items. Shifter and Huhi both 14 and now over 200 CS. It's like about 1.2k gold lead for Shifter in that lane, and that came from the early game as well. That's helped Dignitas quite a bit with those early flashes and teleports they made Huhi use right away.
1.4 thousand gold lead for Smitty as well.
Nice.
Also, Kirei making up for a lot of his misplays last game. Had a solid game so far on Hank Elise.
That's the point.
Cinderhawk, actually, the enchantment he's gone with.
Kindred really fizzled out, and that, especially for new players, will be on your mind when you go into your next game. You want to prove things, and that can push you into a state of mind where you actually do the wrong thing over and over. But he's really controlled it well and composed himself nicely in the second game of the spring split. 3,000 gold lead here for Dig. CLG still trying to close that up. It's grown a little bit more now since that 2K, but they have time.
Well, this time, though, Darshan has a jump start on the bottom turret. Yeah, they're recalling. Okay, so the True Shot Barrage is going to try and hit the minion waves as Fiora arrives. How's Darshan going to react? He just runs away.
Turn tail. Oh, Kiwi Kid. The support, oh my god, the support's going to ward by themselves, and the reason we're getting fights today, ladies and gentlemen. 2 are now down. Darshan fell in the bot lane. Smitty J came out on top of that fight, and now it's Aphromoo. He's going down. A triple kill coming in for Apollo. Spooky Ghosts are going to hit up onto Xmithy. All they have is the run now, and it's going to be down the mid lane. Smithy's not going to be able to do much, and we have about 30 seconds average on those death timers.
Yeah, this could be a big push forward for Team Dignitas. Smithy is doing his best stall job possible to keep the minions away from there. Gonna end up saving that inhibitor for the time being, and Team Dignitas will turn from there.
Oh, look at this. Smitty J is gonna catch Smithy. He's gonna zone him off of what would be the Baron attempt 50-50 smite, and then they get it uncontested. So nice job for Smitty J hanging out in the wings here, and he's able to shut this down. The grand challenge onto Smithy. What do you think would win, a hammer or a sword?
Looks like the sword.
Today the sword wins.
Very easily the sword. However, the sword has been heavily sharpened by a Titanic Hydra, a Black Cleaver, and a Bloodthirster, whereas the hammer, for some reason, is carrying a chain vest and a Cinder Hulk, whatever that is supposed to be.
That's true.
It's hard to augment a hammer with a Cinder Hulk. Anyway, Smithy falls, CLG falls heavily.
Yeah.
The tankiness of Trundle support, very surprising to CLG
so great.
in that set. Honestly, though, Poppy's not bringing any damage. Stixxay hasn't been able to farm. Lissandra is burst heavy. If the initial burst doesn't kill, CLG's got to turn tail and run, but Shifter gets all of his AoE into the corridor. Then they're kind of trapped there by the Trundle Pillar, and Apollo gets playing position along the backside. Nice aggression by the rest of Team Dignitas, not even counting about Smitty J chasing down Darshan in the bottom lane. That is the big breaking point for Team Dignitas in this game. Now, the next time they get a pick on someone from CLG, it will most likely mean the game.
All right, minute on Dragon. The wards defensively used for CLG, but they're already behind Dignitas. Dig's not worried about much right now, and they know how to flex the muscles. They have the power to do so. Ultimate goes out immediately after the turret. Zanya's for Huhi. His ult is still up. He can go into the tomb if he needs to. There it is. AoE damage coming out. Dignitas still kiting back, and they still find Huhi. 3 members now down for CLG, and they hardly had to even enter the fight there. They just stood on the outside.
And credit to Smitty J, he killed Darshan 1v1 yet again. So the split pushing game from CLG is done for. Team Dignitas now, chance to win.
Nicely done. Look at this work that they have set up before. Smitty J as well coming through the bottom lane to open up a window for Dignitas. Apollo going melee range. Still gets the kill for himself. 4 down for CLG. That means their Nexus will be number 5 as Aphromoo stays alive. Team Dignitas takes down CLG.
And what a statement game by Team Dignitas after the disappointing events of yesterday. They take down the defending North American LCS champions who had beaten TSM on day 1 and looked good doing it. Team Dignitas takes them down 21-6 in 31 minutes.
Team effort from Team Dignitas. Everybody made plays. Smitty J showing up today after having quite a tough game on Malphite. Keyray showing up today after having a very tough time on Kindred. And they shook it right off here for day 2.
Yeah, and it was this Smitty J guy solo killing Darshan and
over and over.
Obviously, it's a tricky situation because so much of Darshan's advantages often come from the team giving him advantages in lane swap scenarios, but this lane swap was lost by CLG. So Team Dignitas got the small edges, and then the mark of a coordinated team mean they could capitalize on those advantages. Smitty J exercised his lead over Darshan, killed him multiple times. Stixxay was repeatedly punished while trying to catch up in the game.
That's true.
And CLG just never caught up.
Even if it worked somewhat in their favor when Stixxay was getting caught for those kills, it's still CLG completely doing something else rather than using those 4 to push a turret, using those 4 to get an objective. They're using those 4 to protect Stixxay, and it did not work out. It could have. If that happens over and over, you definitely get an advantage, but Dignitas also saw that. They were able to work around it and make it work in their favor. Like I said, beautiful play all around. The early game from Shifter really put a momentum on the game for what CLG had to do, blowing that flash and teleport so early of Hootie.
Yeah, not only were the top and bottom lanes disadvantaged, it was also Shifter pulling out that pressure in the mid lane. A big question that Shifter has to answer this split. You know, he's had so many splits in a row of falling behind in lane, not having pressure. Now he has a very aggressive jungler paired with him.
Yep.
for better or worse, Keyray's going for it. He got punished yesterday. He did not get punished today. He was going for it this time instead on a squishy 80 carry with Ghost Blade and a bunch of offensive items. Cinder Hulk at least. So he's going to go for it, and he's going to be able to stay in there for a while, and it worked.
Also, the bottom lane, fantastic job by Apollo and Kiwi Kid. Kiwi Kid with the disengages and the rest of the team following that situation to keep that in mind the whole time and not just maybe once we go in. No, they stuck to their guns, and they really performed well this game all around. Kiwi Kid on that Trundle. I think we'll be seeing more Trundle as we already have.
Oh, I mean, Trundle is everywhere, and definitely support Trundle we're going to be seeing. This is on the 6.1 patch, so it is the nerfed Trundle as well, but it still brings so much of the same utility that people were using it for anyway, and on support on the pro stage, very important.
Absolutely. So right now, for more on Dig's victory, let's check in with Freak.
Kiwi Kid, how's it feel, man? You took down CLG, defending champions. What do you got to say?
Man, I just gotta say it feels good, and yeah, it feels good to play a game where you don't throw to Baron, and like Apollo thought Baron was so ward, even though 4 of them were down and had a pink in there, and Sweeper was on too. He's like, clear the ward, but it wasn't there. But yeah, I mean, it's good to finally win. I guess it's kind of weird because it's just started season, so you can't maybe expect to win. But I said finally because it's been a while since the last time I played, so.
I mean, you had to face Energy in like a really heartbreaking game. Now you're up against like really tough opponents. Like, tell me about like how this team has come together then. I asked pretty much everyone this question, but like a lot of roster changes for you guys. It's like only you and Shifter who like also stepped up super well. Like, tell me about your feelings on this team.
Yeah, like I really think this team can make it to like top 2, like for sure. We just need to keep doing what we're doing now, and we like implement a lot of new intangible objectives in our heads.
Okay.
I guess maybe just like focus points. So that really helped. And like Thomas is like, man, he's a really good teammate. So hey, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, he like really like watching him how much he wants to win and like does for the team like makes you like want to become a better player. So yeah, shout out to my jungler.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I mean, and you think about it, right? Like, all these big off-season moves, like TSM's got a super team, Immortal's got a super team. You guys have like Shifter, who had a pretty bad year last time, and like 2 like European like ex-challenger players. Like, how have you got so much faith in these guys already?
Yeah, you just kind of need to talk to them. I don't know if I think you've met them, but once you like kind of get to talk to them, you can see like what they're really made of. So it's really nice to see.
So this team's going to go top 2. This team's going to go far. Thank you very much, Kiwi Kid. Thanks for the interview. Congratulations on the win. We'll see you next week. Of course, man. And send it over to the desk.
Thank you, Freak. A lot of confidence coming out of Kiwi Kid there after a victory for them following the loss to Energy yesterday. But a very solid game coming out of Dignitas here. And I kind of want to discuss when we look at this game, we look at CLG, we always talk about macro play out of them. Those early level ones, they excel in the lane swaps. They'll build an early advantage, and they'll use that to brute force things as a group of 5 around the map. Well, they weren't afforded that opportunity this time because Dignitas was exuding a lot of pressure in the mid lane, making picks around the map, and forcing CLG into some pretty bad situations.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the macro went bad because a lot of the micro in the early game too. Stixay didn't blow his flash early enough. Also, there were some things where Huhi's TPs were, yesterday Afro was talking about how they weren't always great, and this one was definitely more towards that, but there's more pressure on him too. There's more riding on those TPs in this composition because he's pretty much their only form of engage with a flank. Him and Darshan, it's arguable, but Darshan was the one they were always pressuring on Dig's side with Smitty and multiple members sometimes.
Dyrus, it's an interesting case study because so often we look at high-level LCS players and say, well, they've all got the mechanics, right? You didn't get to Challenger by not having some level of mechanics. And then we usually say, well, the teams that are going to excel are the ones that can create the strategies, that can make the right calls in the tough situations. But this was, in a sense, an example of CLG showing that if you can't then execute, right, if the mechanics fall away for at least a moment or that split-second decision-making by an individual isn't there, then it doesn't matter what the macro decision was.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different factors that you just mentioned, and a lot of the macro play comes off of level 1 planning. It feels like Dig played level 1 extremely well. He had a really strong early game just like they did yesterday, and, they followed up with their mechanics, and when it comes to team composition, you kind of rely on Huhi to flank, to engage. And you see all of these like picks from Dignitas where they're like really top tier picks and they're really hard to get a hold of. If you don't get the Lissandra flank, or if you make a small mechanical mistake on Lissandra, you're just stuck there getting poked by Ezreal. You know, Afro's getting charmed by, you know, Shifter. Like, we have Elise Cocoon, and then for split pushing, like, since they already won the early game, there's only so much Zion can do with the resources that he has.
Yeah. Speaking of the elusiveness of the team of Dignitas, we saw 14 minutes into the game, a little fight break out in the mid lane, who he attempts to engage on Shifter, but that Spirit Rush coming in really handy here in denying that engagement and letting Dig turn back on them.
Yeah, and it's just a slippery team overall, right? It's so hard to catch this Ahri. If you catch the Elise, she repels. Ezreal is really hard with the blue build to even keep a hold of him. But Shifter right here, when he R's away and Spirit Rushes, boom, right there. He's too far away for the follow-up, and at that point, that is a bad frozen tomb to actually throw down there. And then the pillars from Kiwi Kid this game were actually very on point. Sometimes he was pinning people, or just the slow zone was enough to make it so that the fight became scattered. And this is a composition that loves tiny skirmishes where it's 2-on-2, 3-on-3. They don't really need to be together as a unit. They can have little tiny ones on the side.
Dig really like paired together really well there. Like that massive pillar, the Elise Cocoons, the Ahri charms, like everything just fits together into like one solid team fight.
Yeah, I like the comp.
Because of who he's misplay on the ult on Shifter, they lost a massive tool for them to, like, you know, come back into the fight. But because of the pillar, they weren't able to do much.
Yeah, let's run down the roster real quick on Team Dignitas' side. You know, Smitty J today on the Fiora as opposed to the Malphite yesterday had a much better showing, solo killing Darshan multiple times.
Yeah, I really like Smitty J. Back when he was an EU challenger and I got to cast him, I loved him on things like Jax and Riven. And I think that the Fiora is once again another great fit for him. I don't know how much I'm going to really like him on Engage champions if he's in charge of those types of things, because I think Kiwi Kid is a fantastic Engage player himself. So Shifter, he's always had a great Ahri as well. Really good picks. And then the rest of the lineup, Kirei, kind of making up for his performance yesterday with a superior jungle control today.
Yeah, looking at, I want to kind of hammer the Shifter point, though, too. We saw the early level 3 pressure from Ahri, having put some damage down at level 2, forcing Huki out at level 3. That was kind of the story of the game. And then the picks on Aphromoo, one after the other after the other. You probably could have made a highlight montage, you know, 4 minutes long of just Ahri charms landing and then netting larger objective results. But in that interview, it was kind of interesting talking to Kiwi Kid about having young players, you know, where you're not making these big imports and having these intangible objectives. Dyrus, maybe as a player yourself, you can kind of speak to the mental process, the goal-oriented process that they're going through when he talks about, well, we've set goals for ourselves and it's about staying on track and on focus with those that'll make us a better team and let us stack up against, you know, the likes of the TSM roster.
Or Immortal, of course.
Or Immortals,
But
yeah.
anyways, like having younger players, like it's really easy to tell them what to do because they don't have egos built up, pride built up. A good example for me as a player is I never had any pride at the very start, but as time went on, it was very hard for me to adapt. And so for these players, like they're willing to do what you tell them to. And, you know, if you have less confrontation and more synergy together, it just works out better that way.
Dig picking up a solid win against CLG. Keep it tuned right here because in just a few minutes, we'll be diving into our third match with TSM looking to rebound as they take on Team Liquid. We'll be right back.
But guys, you have to remember any tilt play, just ignore it, you know, like focus what to do next, like seriously.
Yeah, no yelling.
Yeah.
Ah! It's just a game, guys, honestly. Just a video game.
Aphromoo getting in to save him. The rest, no, you gotta be kidding me.
I'm looking for Lissandra. I'm here, I get it.
Lissandra. Brom. Keep going. Lucian.
Okay, get him. Go mid.
The support. Oh my God, the support's going to war by themselves. And the reason we're getting fights today, ladies and gentlemen, 2 are now down. Open up a window for Dignitas. Apollo going melee range. Team Dignitas takes down CLG.